Welcome to the Life Leadership Podcast with myself, Leila Singh, all things coaching, career and personal branding. This podcast is for ambitious career professionals like you, wanting to create a life of choice and freedom, to be, do and have more through overcoming limitations, to develop new perspectives and insights, and to redefine your success, be that in work, health, relationships, and so much more. Welcome to Life with Leila. My name is Leila Singh. I'm an executive career and personal brand coach, and I work with career professionals, typically in the technology industry, who are looking to overcome their limitations and uncover their real potential. Here's the thing, we often criticize ourselves. We're very quick, in fact, to criticize ourselves and to beat ourselves up. In fact, we're even good at berating ourselves and then telling ourselves that we should have known that, or that we should have done this, or that we should be here by now rather than there where we're at the moment. And we beat ourselves up if we make a mistake, if we try something and it doesn't work, or we feel that we should be at a certain point in our life or in our careers and we're not there yet. And then we go into self-deprecation, and none of it actually serves us. And here's the thing, this is what we want to slow down to, is the fact that it doesn't really serve us at all. And actually, my question to that would be, would you speak to a child in the same way that you speak to yourself? Because the way that we speak to ourselves a lot of the time is internal dialogue. It's in our own heads, and things happen throughout the day, from the moment we wake till the moment that we go to sleep. And yet there's that inner dialogue that's continuous, that is either raising us up and celebrating us and congratulating us, oh, you've done really well, or putting us down. And more often than not, it's putting ourselves down. So this is where I really invite you to consider building your self-awareness muscle. And you may have heard me talk about this before, and it's so important, because often human beings spend a lot of their time living their life unconsciously. So they're not really aware of actually some of what they're doing and the implications of what they're doing, particularly on themselves. So I invite you to begin to slow down and start to tune into that inner dialogue, those inner conversations that you're having with yourself, the self-talk, and what you're actually telling yourself. And remember this, you want to be the best version of you. And in order to do that, you want to be able to give yourself the recognition, the celebration, the acknowledgement, and not only wait for it to come from external sources, maybe from people around you, your team, your managers, your friends, your partner, your parents. You could do it for yourself, and that's okay. And by doing that, by celebrating you, by slowing down to actually what you have accomplished and how far you've come, you'll start to feel a lot better, and that will motivate you, inspire you to do more and to be even better. Because here's the thing, every day we are learning. We don't know everything. Google might, but we don't. And so we've got to be kind to ourselves and recognize that we're always learning. There's always new things to discover. And including from the things that don't go well, and what most people label as failure, it's not failure unless you just keep repeating it or that you don't learn from it. But it's what we do with those learnings, the things that don't work, that don't go our way, that don't go as planned, that make the difference. It's the learnings behind that. It's what we do with it. And therefore, it's all simply experience. And it's experience of things that go well and experiences that we can take away learnings from. Ultimately, it's all about how we choose to look at things, our perspective, our lens of the world. And are we looking for the good in something? Are we looking for the learnings? Or are we choosing to simply be self-critical and to beat ourselves up and to tell ourselves that we're not good enough or we're not ready, and basically limit ourselves from moving forward and from progressing in our life? And the other side of that is that how often do we slow down to really reflect and look at how far we've actually come? We so rarely do this. We so rarely actually just slow down to look at what has gone well. And this is something that comes up a lot when I'm working with my clients, because often they'll come to the conversation with all the things that didn't go as they had planned, as they had wanted, and it hasn't gone as good as it could have been. And so they're feeling down, they're beating themselves up, they're being self-critical. When actually, if we slow down to that, we could probably find 10 things that have gone really well. But our brain is naturally programmed to focus on the negative. So sometimes we have to look at retraining our neural pathways, reprogramming ourselves to be able to focus first and foremost on what has gone well, on what worked, and actually then putting some context around things that perhaps didn't go as we would have liked and looking at the lessons from that. Because we rarely slow down to stop and to reflect and to celebrate our accomplishments and to congratulate ourselves. Instead, we focus on what we haven't yet achieved or what we've messed up. And that's my invitation to you today, is to slow down and to check in with yourself as to what your current habits are. And by the way, we're all guilty of this. I still do it. I did a while ago, a number of years ago, is an example that really stands out for me, where I delivered a live talk at an organization. And at the end of it, there was about 50 people in the room, and there's probably about 45, I think 43, 45 people booked a call with me afterwards. So they completed the details to have us arranged to have a conversation, which left about 5, 6, 7 people who didn't. And initially that was a great win for me. I was like really pleased with that, because people had felt inspired. They felt that I could contribute to them, and therefore they wanted to have a conversation with me. On the other hand, I then received some feedback, some written feedback that the company sent on to me. And there was probably only 3 or 4 comments in there in this document on feedback, and it was really critical. So what did I do? I went into a meltdown, and I was like, oh my God, it was really bad and no one liked it, And I just stopped delivering talks and, motivational talks and trainings and so forth, because people don't like me. And I went la, 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 la. And I just got really down about it and started to beat myself up. I was very, very self-critical. Started to question if I was doing the right thing, if maybe I should just go back to my career. Honestly, this was all the inner self dialogue, right, that was occurring at this point. And it was only when I then spoke to my partner about it, because he recognized that I was really down. And when he asked me what was wrong, I was like, yeah, but these 3 people, they said this, that, and the other. So he listened. He said, okay, so that's their point of view, and that's okay. He said, how many people reached out to book a call with you? And I was like, 45. And he's like, right, okay, so what are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on the negative or the positive that's come out of that? And this is where I invite you to slow down, because we all do it. I do it, and I still do it, and I have to catch myself. And that is what I have a coach, because my coach will call me out on that. And I'm inviting you to really slow down to that, and to recognize when you start to feel down or something hasn't gone your way, you start to beat yourself up. Slow down to that and ask yourself why. Why are you doing that? Would you speak to anyone else? Never mind a child, but would you speak to anyone else in that way? And often the answer is no. The same thing happened to me last week. And it was on my call with my coach where I realized what I'd been doing, because I had started to beat myself up and had lowered my motivation and my discipline and my focus on what I was doing, because I was feeling really bad. And this is the thing, when we are self-critical, when we are putting ourselves down, it makes us feel a certain way. And that directly impacts the way that we show up and the way that we are for ourselves and for other people in the world. And when we show up with those negative thoughts and feelings, it will have an adverse impact on our behavior, on our actions, and therefore our results in anything that we do. And that's why this is so important, to really slow down and recognize when we are slipping into that self-criticism, beating ourselves up mode, and catching ourselves to be able to turn that around and say, well, actually, okay, what have I learned from this? What can I do better the next time? And by the way, what's gone really well? So the takeaway from this is to really focus on not what you haven't yet achieved or haven't done, but actually how far you have come. Because that's when we get to recognize our growth, which almost always requires elements of resilience, of determination, of commitment. And in fact, this is when we get to realize what we are truly capable of. We get to realize our potential. So I'm inviting you to slow down to that, because when you get to recognize what you are truly capable of, you'll be inspired, motivated to do even more, and it will push you forward and propel you further in your career. So start to focus on the wins, things that have gone well. And ways to do this is to reflect, whether you do it daily or weekly, is to just take some time to jot down in a notebook or on your phone, what's gone well today? What could have been better? Where can I improve? What is my learnings from what happened today or this week? So remember, you're still learning and improving every single day, but you have to slow down and actually just think about it, just reflect on it. Just like I did last week when I was having my little meltdown, that actually I have come further than I acknowledge myself for. And when I slow down and look back on my own journey, I'm very quick to beat myself up, even now. And I have to catch myself and slow down to recognize that the reality is where I am today and what I've accomplished over my life, no matter what it looks like to anybody else, it is something that I would never have dreamed possible. And there have been significant personal accomplishments along the way. But by continually beating myself up, being self-critical, thinking that I should be further forward than I am, is not helpful. It's not going to enable me to move forward. In fact, often it'll grind you down and have you almost wanting to give up. So it's really, really important to slow down to your inner self-talk. So the takeaways from today are: stop beating yourself up, tune into your self-talk, listen to how you're speaking to yourself, and start to reprogram those neural pathways by focusing on the things that are going well, celebrating them, noting your wins, your accomplishments, and learning from the things that haven't gone so well. And start to reflect and recognize how far you have come in your life and in your career. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, remember to elevate your performance and maximize your potential and create new possibilities by showing up as the best version of yourself. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you enjoyed and gained value from today's episode, then do please leave a review telling us your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on life leadership, creating a life of choice, freedom, and new possibilities. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn, and if you would like to learn more about how we can work together, either DM me on LinkedIn or email.